and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mr. Fontaine, Mr. Terrebonne, Mrs. Dussault,
Here.
Ms. Schwartz,
Here.
Mr. Runge, Mr. Downey, and Chairman Zimmerman.
Here. And we have an excused absence for Mr. Runge, correct?
And
Mr. Terrebonne.
correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the first item on the agenda for us today is the approval of the minutes of our December 18th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, Chair would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion is passed. Minutes are accepted. Thank you. Looking out into the public arena, I see nobody capable of making a public comment. So let's move into the agenda item that's probably foremost in our minds. Under old business, the Vero Beach Beautification Weekend. And as you can see, the news release has gone out.
This is what went, the one you're looking at there is the one that went on the website.
Went on the website, okay. But the same verbiage, essentially.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah, went out to the various media outlets. Now, I only saw a response from you on one, Rita, where they sent you a copy. Did you hear from anyone else? Have you?
I did.
I have not seen any others, but you know, sometimes I miss them.
I didn't hear back from anybody else or get any other responses, but
Okay. All right.
sometimes you don't.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I haven't seen anything, but it may be like Beachside News, I would hope would be in today's issue, showing, you know, some interest. I have talked to the editor for the PJ, and our agreement is that I'll remind him towards the end of the month, and he said he would assign an article.
Oh, good. An actual article and not just in the.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Right.
good.
So that is a factor. Secondly, you may or may not be aware, I've done my first interview for radio with the 5 radio stations, and I sent the schedule to the clerk and asked her to share that with you folks. So
Yeah, we got the email.
I don't know if you
Yeah,
you
we
got
did
that.
get an email.
Okay. Now the next question is, did you listen to the interview? Complete silence.
I have not.
It's all right. You're not hurting my feelings.
No, it's
I
not.
realized that you're busy people. Anyway,
Right.
it did get broadcast.
Yeah.
over
Oh,
the
good.
5
Okay.
stations. TV, Marcia only records twice a month, and she will be recording a week from today, and we will do a television interview, the first one, on Beautification Weekend, and that will run over the weekend. So it'll start running on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and who knows how long they may carry it because they have a tendency to do that. But anyway, that's the situation on the TV aspect.
Excuse me, what
Sure.
weekend?
I'm sorry?
What weekend? You said it'll run over the weekend, the beautification
The next-
weekend, or
No,
the
the
following
next
weekend
weekend,
after
yes.
it's
That's
produced.
correct. And then we'll
Okay.
have to do, well, I'll have to do another one so that it will run for Beautification Weekend.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
Morning, Dan.
Morning.
We're into the Beautification Weekend discussion.
Okay, thank you.
And let's see.
Excuse me, before
Sure.
we leave the press release, I would like to reproduce this to give out to the managers and to the homeowners association along with the flyers, because this is a really excellent synopsis of the intent. And I think one of the things that I'm seeing in terms of approaching any of these people is we know what we want to do. The flyer is visually what we want to do, but I think something like this along with it.
Yeah,
So
it
if that's
reinforces it, if
right,
nothing
if
else.
it's okay, I will just reproduce this.
Oh, well, I was going to suggest we do, Rita, we have approval from the clerk's office to do the flyer.
Correct, print 100.
Okay.
Okay.
How about if you did 50 flyers and
50 of these, I think that'd be great.
Sure.
And then she can use that as a packet, because I think realistically 50 is probably,
I think so. We said up to 100, but
Yeah.
that's fine. The other thing is, where do you want to put the city logo on the flyer, or do you really want to put? I mean, Rita was kind enough to send me the city logo.
I would say it reinforces the fact that this is a city event.
No question. I'm looking at placement.
I see.
I think wherever you feel it's
Fine.
appropriate.
Okay.
I don't think I don't think there's any guidelines that says the logo has to be here or there.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I'm asking is if the city is going to reproduce it, then does the city want to place the logo?
That's probably as good a suggestion as
I
any, 'cause
think-
they're
I think
used to the use of the logo more than we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my thought was, you have a copy because I sent it out via email.
Correct. You can email it to me and I can attach it or whatever you want me to do.
Exactly. So I think you've already got one.
Was that the final?
Yes, because I think that's what everybody voted on.
Okay.
So if the city folks want to essentially attach the logo wherever they want it, and make the 50 and 50 and then just tell me when I can pick it up. I wasn't planning on starting to really do this in terms of handouts until the beginning of February, because I think that if we do it too prematurely, it'll be lost in translation, if you will.
Okay, that will take care of that aspect
Absolutely.
of notification. We know it's on the city website, so
Correct.
because Rita just told us that, so that covers that aspect. The other thing that I thought we might just do quickly, excuse me, is go through kind of the checklist of what was to be done, what isn't been done. I know one of the things we need to address is the purchase of the banner, codifying that. And I know I have a pile of stuff here. Maybe you could kind of review for us the bids that you got and the direction that, you might recommend that we consider taking.
So I have copies of 3. Signorama has, and Chris Runge was right about the 12-inch by 20-foot. I talked with them. I got it for 2-foot by 20. Theirs is 360. And then their yard signs are 450. Then Signs by Tomorrow is 365 and 306.21 for the yard signs. The banner's 365. And Minuteman Press is 449 for the banner and 319 for the signs. So my idea would be to go, you save $5 at the one, but yet the yard stakes are 150 more. I would go with the one, pay the $5 and just stay with the same
I think we're better off
one.
dealing with one supplier than we are trying to deal with 2.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So you're making your recommendation based upon the total cost. And just so we clarify it for the record, that what we're comparing are truly comparables, correct?
Yeah.
The material for the sign and the way it's constructed, I'm talking about the banner. That's the one that really has to have some life to it. The other point that was made by the clerk's office was the possibility of making the signs reusable.
I thought about that when I talked with them, but then you wouldn't be able to put the date on it.
I
I
don't
just
think
thought
that's a
about
problem
that.
for the yard signs because it can say this weekend because we can only do it before
3
the
days.
weekend.
Okay.
Good point.
Okay.
So that will work there.
Okay.
And that means then that if you're putting them out, then you're going to be the one who collects them.
I will.
And we talked about a place for storage. Is that a problem? Or?
Tammy said there would be no problem. We could store it somewhere.
Okay. So then
But you
that
guys
would be
chose-
coordinated with whomever within the city administration would receive the signs. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
because I was going
She
to
needs to know who to
Yeah, I
get
do.
the
Yeah.
signs to. That's
And who puts them up? I'm thinking the city too.
no, the city's not going to.
I mean the banner. Go ahead.
Yeah,
You said the yard
okay.
sign. Yeah. I skipped ahead.
Oh, you're not going to jump up there and put the banner up. Okay, well, good.
Could state on the banner, though, the second weekend of February, because that's what you
That's
chose
true.
as an annual
It's a good
date.
suggestion.
Yeah,
Right, because I was going to. That was one of my things to ask today.
yeah. Instead of the date.
Okay, so this weekend on the yard signs and second weekend in February for the banner.
Correct.
And I was talking before the meeting about putting, like, since this is Valentine's Day, to put a heart on it or whatever, but I won't.
Well,
I won't.
I think you got to. It can move around enough
Okay.
that it wouldn't apply. So,
Okay.
you know, that's. I think we can do that when we talk about it this year, but it might not, and maybe it'll apply again next year.
You're
We don't-
right.
I mean, I haven't looked at the calendar ahead of time.
No,
so-
I did think about that, though. So second weekend of February for the banner.
Right.
Okay. And then this weekend for the yard signs.
And maybe something like join us for our annual
Okay.
beautification weekend. You know, with the idea of trying to create the awareness that this is not just a one-time shot.
We keep going.
Yeah.
The other question everyone had was what was the background color going to be? And I said white. I didn't want to get too much.
Yeah, I think
White stands out.
That's what they said.
It's the old KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid, because the better, the more direct it is, the easier it's going to be able to be read. Remember, we've got a few people who are walking, but the majority of these people are driving. We don't want something with a font size or a font design that's so difficult to read
Right.
that we've got car crashes all over town.
And then when I saw Rita's this, I said, this is perfect. With the green. I thought that was,
Well,
no?
I would say the darker the color or the more contrast, the better, just
Okay.
because, us older people find it harder to read. So when you look at the general population, you've got a large percentage of elderly. And so the easier you can make it to read, the more direct the message, and the larger the font size based upon the area
Well, they're
that you
driving.
have.
I mean, we don't want them to slow down so they can
Yeah.
read.
So, I mean, you're dealing with sign people, and hopefully, they're going to be able to give you guidance too.
Right, they said that. They have
Yeah.
templates and stuff, and I told them I wanted it simple. The last question is, do you put wind slits in it or not? I don't. They said with no wind slits, it's a giant sail with them, and wind goes
Do they
through it.
recommend?
Because they're going to be up 2 or 3 weeks.
I would be inclined to put
Say
wind
yes,
slits in there.
because
yeah.
of the 2 or 3 weeks. If it was
Right.
just a few days, then probably not, because it
Yeah.
won't rip itself
Plus the
apart.
fact we're approaching this, at least initially, as a multi-use
Right.
or a multi-year
Okay.
use.
Right.
And so the more we can do to help protect the integrity of the sign.
Yeah,
Well,
because it is
also
expensive.
willability,
Yeah,
isn't
it is expensive.
We have a gale come through here, it may
Oh.
cause problems. But
Sure,
that's
just a
something-
gust is
We have
enough.
no control over that.
Right.
Okay. All right. So that's taken care of.
And then
Let's just to clarify things. I would appreciate if we had a motion to identify who the signs are going to be purchased from and part of the record, please.
Well, I'll make a motion to purchase them from Signs by Tomorrow. for $365 for the 2-foot by 20-foot banner, and then $306.21 for the 24-inch by 18-inch plastic yard signs, and that's with the stakes.
And that would be a total of,
It says $671.21.
and that's without sales tax.
Right.
correct?
Well, the tax is here.
Yeah.
It's itemized,
Right.
and that was as of November 7th.
And can we have some kind of a purchase order or something, or an order from the city so that we negate on the basis of the supplier the responsibility for collecting the sales tax?
Correct.
It's going to
I
be
will-
paid by the city anyway,
Correct,
right?
and I will check on that for you.
Great, thank you. So that gives you coverage there. We save a few dollars on the sales tax.
I second the motion.
It's
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Great, unanimous. We appreciate that.
okay.
And you'll take care of.
I think I have all
following
the
up.
questions.
And you can coordinate with Rita on how to go about that, whether you need a purchase order number or just what, how the city wants to approach that. And so we're in good shape there. Okay. Now, what are the other, I've explained where we are on the PJ article, and I've explained where we are on both the follow-up and ongoing radio and TV interviews. So those we've pretty well identified. What other things are there that we need to move forward? There was discussion, if I remember correctly, about notifying neighborhood groups. Is that part of what you're
That's
gonna
part
try
of
and
what
do?
I'm doing with
Okay.
respect to the flyers and now these this press release.
Okay. Dan, were there any follow-ups that you were doing that you can report on?
I spoke with the Oceanside Business Association about having a presence at their Sunset. Well, at last meeting we discussed it really wasn't necessary, as well as a 14th Avenue Friday night thing. I attempted to reach Mrs. Cunningham, but was unable to via phone and email. So I'm not sure about I'm happy to reach out to someone with the garden club, but I'm just confused. There's so many different circles. I don't know where to begin.
Yeah, she's
and,
a good
and
source.
I'm not sure that they all communicate together. So I don't know what kind of.
And they're having their Garden Fest
Is it this month?
It's the end of this month.
end of this month, yeah. And, that's,
Well, that might be a place to drum up awareness for what we're talking about.
Where is it?
Riverside Park.
Under the Oaks. Barbara Russell's the contact for that one.
Barbara
I'm
Russell.
wondering if might be a good idea to have at least a couple of
Well, the problem with doing handouts
not
okay.
to hand out. No, but because then we don't even know whether the people live here.
Yeah, well, and the other part is you're helping create trash because if
Right.
people are not careful, they're all over
Correct,
the park and then
correct.
they find it and, oh, yeah, you guys were the ones that
Yeah,
did it.
no, I'm just trying to think of
A board,
of-
some kind of a sign board
right.
on an easel near the entrance, to me, would be one of the easier ways to do that. But
But the problem is, in a situation like that, there's so much to see and read, it might get lost.
yeah, well, the only place I would see that it might have some identity would be right at the entrance as people are, because there is a one funnel kind of entrance. I mean, I guess you can circle around the back because there is no charge for this.
Right.
It's free.
Right.
But most people go in the front.
And it's the end of this month. I was thinking maybe we could put a couple of those yard signs there, but they'll say this weekend.
Yes, yeah, that won't
know?
work. Yeah. It would require the creation of some kind of a, well, first of all, and I will tell you from prior difficulties with Garden Fest, Phil Russo, who's no longer with us anymore, and I, a number of years back, we were getting ready to have a seedling sale, and so we wanted to announce it. And so we asked the garden club, the Garden Fest people, if we could hand out flyers, and they said, no, you can't do that. So Phil and I stood across the street in public property on the sidewalk and handed out flyers, but we got daggers from those ladies. And
Yeah, well,
it was not fun. So
well, yeah.
what
and
my point is, if you can make contact with the lady that was mentioned and see about the possibility of whether they would allow us to put some kind of
almost a poster size is
a
what you're
poster size
actually
sign.
thinking.
Yeah, if we
Well,
could
one
do
of these
that.
can be blown up.
Yes,
Go into Staples, they'll blow it up.
yeah.
So,
But
Dan,
we need to get
if
permission before.
if we can get the keys to the kingdom to do it, then I'll be happy to take this over
Okay,
to
Dan, if you would check on the
Staples.
availability, go back through the clerk and let her
And the-
contact.
Absolutely.
Keep you out of trouble.
Would you have a contact for number? Okay. I'll get with you. Thank you.
Great. So that's the potential of, a number of people seeing it.
Okay.
Again, they have to stop and read it, and, it's the old story.
Since we're not going to meet, Dan, if you're successful, would you let Rita
I
know
will.
so Rita
So
can
you
let
should
me
let me
know?
know.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I'll just take this to Staples,
Okay.
and it's not that much money to have them blow up one.
If it is, we can all chip in $1 or two.
It's-
It's like $5.
It can be my beautification weekend contribution.
There you go.
Was there anything else, Dan?
That's what I had on my plate.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Anything else on your plate?
I can do another radio show or so if you want me to closer.
Well,
I can try to get one.
It's
I
up
can
to
try to
you.
get one I can't guarantee it, but
No,
I
no,
can
no.
try
And
to.
that'd be great if you can
Okay.
do that. Only because repetition's great, and
I'm
you
thinking
catch
maybe-
some people who may not have.
I'm not sure about Willie Miller. She has a show, and so does Netta Heater might.
Yeah,
not
Willie
sure.
does.
Yeah,
We're
Willie
right.
has
Yeah.
one.
And it is kind of community oriented. Yeah.
Okay. And the public service announcement's been on randomly.
Good. Anything else? You've got the handouts. Was there anything else you were following up on?
No. I was that was basically. But I do have a question.
Okay.
What are we doing that weekend?
I don't know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing.
Oh, okay. Well, what I was
I'm not coming to work in your yard.
my point
gonna work on my
was:
own yard.
is there going to be any?
Hands-on stuff.
Yeah,
We do.
something that we as a commission are
See,
involved.
there are
in.
problems with that because
Okay.
when we do it as members of a commission, then the city has liability responsibilities for anything we do. Anything that happens to us or anything that how we
I understand.
impact the public. So my suggestion is, if you live within the city and you want to do something, do it with a friend or something of the sort. Yes, ma'am.
I have a suggestion for pictures to be taken, to be put on the website to help promote it next year, just to show, the positive, whatever improvements were made, just give some recognition to the efforts.
Do
Can
you
we-
have
Great
any
idea.
suggestions on how we would identify people who had engaged in that activity in order to send someone to take a picture?
Is there something that could be added to the website? Just to,
The one that I thought a while ago was the 20th Avenue. I think we said it at a couple of meetings because there's so much work that had gotten done there with the trees that had gotten planted as part of one of the city's recent beautification.
I think what
projects.
you're talking about is the people who are doing it themselves. It
Right.
would seem to me that in our advertising, we might ask them to download
yeah.
pictures
Oh, that's a good
of
idea.
that. I mean, everybody's got an iPhone.
Sure.
Take a picture, download it, and then
Sure.
we can go through them. But I think
And-
that's a great idea
Yeah.
of showing.
I can also, when I do the TV ad and when I do, or the interview and I do the radio interview, I can add that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great
Great
idea.
idea. Super
Because
idea.
it does give us some idea. Hopefully, the PJ doing an article, they'll be encouraged to do the same thing, and maybe I can suggest that to them, that in their article, that they include that.
Yeah.
People love to have their picture in
Oh,
the
they do.
newspaper.
Absolutely.
And as a follow-up, people will either send in pictures or call in.
Oh,
Good thought.
that's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank
That
you.
was super.
Let me make a note, in
Mm-hmm.
fact. Okay. Without going over the whole list, I think we pretty well took the items and assigned them to people where there were items that hadn't been addressed. So I don't remember anything else. Is there anything that anyone else remembers that we haven't, either assigned or discussed and rejected, or discussed and implemented, I guess is the best way to approach it.
Well, I don't have my list with me, but I remember that
I guess.
some of the members who aren't here were assigned tasks. So if they're not here, we're not going to know whether what they
I know
did.
magazines was one.
Well, I've got the list here, and the banner, event signs, requesting the use of funds from the city, we've taken care of that. The website, information page, we've done that with this. Contact Oceanside, contact the Garden Club, we're addressing that through the Garden Fest. Downtown Friday, we decided that's pretty difficult to involve ourselves with. A list of all the people that the news releases were sent to. Did that include the Cultural Council and things like that too, Rita?
I know Chris Runge said he was going to be the one to contact them, and I sent them all of you guys a copy of the press release. So whether he did that or not, I don't know.
Yeah,
but I
I've
can
been
follow up.
I've been kind of watching the Cultural Council. It may be a little too early.
Yeah,
because they have a tendency.
It hasn't been there yet.
No, I haven't seen it either.
I'll be
So-
glad to send it to them via email or make a phone call.
Well, since I can't contact Chris, could you contact him for us, please, and say that one of the things that we asked about, whether he had had a chance to follow up with those notifications, he was going to take care of.
Okay, we'll
All
do.
right, thank you. Okay. Just going through here quickly through our list, I think we've, there were things that we had on the list that we considered and said the viability of doing them wasn't
Right.
really
Right.
realistic. And then other things, it's, folks, this is going to be an uphill battle, I can tell you, because it's difficult to motivate people. And,
Well, the first time is probably going to be, but I think the suggestion of...
no, I meant the first time.
Oh, okay. After that, we'll...
Well, getting coverage and the pictures afterward will be good because it'll create awareness with people who maybe weren't aware or reinforce the situation after the fact. So I think, again, as we said when we first discussed this, all we can do is try.
Right.
And
do the best we can. That's
Yep,
all that we
that's
can
exactly right. Okay. Are there any other items relative to Beautification Weekend?
do. The proclamation?
Well, that's supposed to be issued,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
I have it. It's going to be on the 20th meeting.
The 20th?
Same as funding.
Okay. Would you send me an email reminding me of that, please?
Yes.
I'm assuming that you want me to be there.
Probably would be nice.
And it's certainly an open invitation for any other members of the Tree Commission to come that evening and be part of receiving the proclamation.
And when is that? I'm sorry.
The
20th?
January 20th.
We're gonna have her
February.
send it to everybody. Okay?
Okay.
The email reminding us, but
Oh, okay, yeah.
It is the 20th. Is that an evening or a morning meeting?
That's the evening meeting.
Okay.
I
You
have
have the
a
right date,
question
don't I?
with respect to the proclamation, and
They wrote it, we didn't.
No, I do understand that. It just
Yes,
struck me
That's it.
I'm assuming it was intentional. But on the third whereas, it says most of the businesses where men worked.
I read that as well.
I really,
That's
Well,
because
we'll ask the female city clerk whether she wrote that or not.
that's how it was posted,
It
because the
was.
women served the meal.
Right.
The afternoon meal.
Yeah, that is
To-
how it was
To
posted.
all the workers.
Oh, this is a follow-up to
The original.
the historical.
Yeah.
well, that was my
Content.
question, because it then went on to say that the post, so that the members could start early in the morning and work until the project was completely finished. So it says to me that they're talking about businesses where men worked as opposed to people worked.
Well, that's in the oldie days.
Right, when the women didn't work
When women were
outside of the
home
house.
taking,
Right.
baking cookies and taking care of the children.
And teaching in schools.
Some of them.
Well, okay.
Now, we're going back into the 30s.
No, I understand that. But women in the 30s still worked, and I pointed out, just because as a woman I see that as not necessarily something the city should be saying, but that's not my call. I understand that, but I'm still going to point it out.
The night that the proclamation is.
No, I won't point it out then, because I've given the city notice.
Okay.
What I don't.
I'm just pulling your
I
chair.
know what you are. I know you are. But the point of it is, I don't want it to come back on the city as well, because I don't think I'm the only one that's going to find
I think the explanation is a feasible one, and that is it was written in the context of the news articles that were written at that time, which described the activity, who was involved in what, and how it progressed. And I think back during that time, which was the decade that I was born, and so I don't remember a lot about it, things were a lot different than they are today. So maybe you can relish in that difference. Okay. Anyway, without starting World War III, let's either add more items for discussion under Beautification Weekend, or if we think we've substantially covered that, why, we can go on. Okay.
I can't think of anything.
Anything under new business? Nanette, anything you have under new business?
No, sir.
We did start talking about Arbor Day planting. So that's an old business. Remember we talked about the park and
Yeah, I found a spot in the jogging trail.
Okay, great. And you've got a tree, or you have one.
I haven't
coming.
asked yet, but
Okay.
I'll get one.
And Rita, we've made contact with the school. Have we heard back?
No, not yet. I haven't. So I will.
You haven't made
yet.
contact, or
Not
you
yet.
haven't heard back?
I have not sent out a letter to them
Okay,
yet.
all right.
I will.
Maybe we ought to do that, because they like to know that stuff ahead of time, you know. So if we can do that. I'm just thinking, we don't have a lot of meetings left.
We're good.
So, anyway,
Also, if I could add something, when we do if we're doing the tree plantings at the schools again, the school.
you're talking about the seedling,
Yeah.
yeah.
The school media specialist said that if we let him know a few weeks before, he would come to one of the schools to film it.
Oh,
Good.
great.
Oh, wow.
Good. Yeah.
Wow.
And Chris, I think, since Dan's no longer on the commission, and Dan had gotten the materials for us, Chris volunteered to do that. So we need to we probably need to add that to our agenda for our next meeting, and hopefully Chris will be here and we can kind of move forward and finalize that.
A side note, in case you have a few minutes, on the school website, there's a taping from Vero Beach Elementary where the Trail of Trees, Florida Urban Forestry Council brought it here, and they taped the program. We took it to two schools, Vero Beach Elementary and Dodgertown. And anyway, it's really just to take a couple minutes to look at it. It was really entertaining with for the kids, and we're hoping to bring it back next year also.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Good. Any other items that might be considered under new business? If not, treasurer's report?
Okay, you all need to sharpen your pencils.
Uh-oh.
The Tree Commission has $873.27.
Woo.
There was $4,200 that was for the grant, and the mitigation has $23,833.45. It had $4,425 taken out of it.
So we still have plenty in the mitigation for,
And there's a lot that's waiting to be put in there. This is, I think, through November. And we had one property, I don't know if you had seen it, down on 27th and 14th Street. Somebody removed a lot of trees. It's a vacant lot, and they had to do close to $6,000 worth of mitigation.
Oh, wow.
So,
Do we know why they removed?
I think they were hoping to sell it, and they thought if they removed the trees, it would be easier to sell.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that, though.
the only problem they had, they forgot to apply for a permit,
Yeah.
which would have.
And they wouldn't have gotten the permit.
They would,
No, I know, I
that's why
understand
they
that,
didn't
but-
apply.
but
It
they-
would have been denied.
But they would have been told not to remove them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So don't ask, don't tell.
But the City of Vero Beach has many volunteer code enforcement officers who let us know. So.
That was great.
Unofficially deputized.
Yes.
Carl,
Okay.
I didn't know if you wanted to talk about what I emailed you the other day about the funds. Now that I'm thinking about that, we talked about these funds.
Go ahead and.
The resolution speaks to, I think it was 2005, if I'm remembering correctly, that the beautification aspect was added to the tree commission.
Yeah.
And the
Explain it to them.
right, the monies that are collected from the tree dedications gets put into a fund, and it said in that resolution that those funds could then be used to plant trees.
By the tree commission or at the tree commission's request.
Correct. When the beautification aspect was added in 2005, that verbiage was never changed to reflect any of the beautification aspects. It still says the funds can be used to plant trees.
Right.
What she's raising.
So
is
do
the point
we want to expand on?
Well,
No, it's more than that. City council has authorized funds to be expended.
we
to buy
bought hanging
banners.
baskets, we've bought plants,
Yeah.
shrubs. So we really, and of course, it's all been approved by the council because that's what the intent was, but it never got captured in that resolution. So we really need to get that wording.
I would suggest that we ask Rita to bring that to the attention of the city clerk, who can then discuss it with the city manager about a potential revision
Okay.
of that portion of the codification
Right.
of our function, to just clarify that. It's a clarification just so that there's no hang up in the future or the basis for somebody challenging it.
Correct.
And I think that was the reason you brought it up also.
Right.
Okay. Okay, Rita? Great. Thank you. That's the easiest way to do it because she's talking to her
Sure, the city
manager.
attorney will have to do that anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But thank you for reminding me of that. Under Chairman's Matters, I want to report to you that I had a request from the board members of the Vero Beach Dog Park to meet with them and to review what they had done relative to the planting of trees and other items in the dog park. So I did schedule a meeting and met with them last week and spent about an hour with them talking about what they had accomplished and what their plans were. And they really hadn't addressed the protection of the trees they planted relative to the
Dogs living in
excess to them by the large dogs that, I don't know if you've been to the park, but it's divided into a small dog section and a large dog section. So, small dogs are not as much of a potential menace or problem for planted trees, especially when they're young, as the large dogs would be. So they're going to address that. I think they thought about it, but they hadn't gotten around to it. But it was kind of interesting just talking with them and reviewing what they had done. They've got some really dedicated people that spend a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of planting. Robin, who we've worked with the downtown group, the architect, Robin's working with them also in recommending in the layout of trees and things of that sort. So it is a positive. And, the park is starting to shape up. They don't have irrigation except to water the trees. And they really don't have any sod except the scrub grass that was there, which they're trying to keep cut and encourage it to spread and grow. So from that point of view, it's not like our other parks, which are truly dedicated parks, as opposed to this, which is a rental situation that the city has come up with that group. But if you're in the area, they've done a very nice job of fencing it off. They have a nice entrance area and kind of what I would call a vestibule so that dogs can't get out when the gate opens because there's a double gate kind of thing.
Right.
And it's very nicely done and well maintained, and there's parking in that area. So it's worthwhile stopping by if you're in the area just to take a look at the trees. And I wanted to thank them for inviting us, and I explained to them that short of having at a noticed meeting, there was no way that more than one of us could be there, and that's why only I was there.
Right.
So, and they then understood that. So just be aware of that. I wanted to mention that to be codified into the minutes. And those are my chairman's matters. Members' matters?
I have none.
Okay. Nothing in the area of members' matters. Our next meeting is the 18th of February. And that, of course, will be after our beautification weekend. So
We'll find out how well we did.
Maybe if you're out and about over the weekend and you see some people working, we could take some pictures too, as long as you get their permission. I would just point that out because we can't really use the pictures without their permission. And it would be good to have their names too, because then you can attest to the fact that you had their permission. I mean, I know we can go to written permission slips. That gets to be cumbersome.
If they have their names, if they want to publish, they can always contact them and they can sign a waiver if necessary.
But short of that, why, the chair would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you.